Welcome to the Greater Journey. I'm your host, Gregory Rutledge, author of From Waiter to Greater and creator of the Greater Framework. On this show, we're not just going to do the highlight reels. We're going to dive into the doubts, the detours, the lessons, the breakthroughs, the things that shape who we become. Every conversation is going to follow the Greater Framework, and the goal is to uncover those moments that make our guests greater so you can find the courage to step into your greatness. Let's jump in. All right. I just love this intro. All right, enough of that. Today's episode, we have Elijah Bilel, the creator of the Side Hustler Society and the Anatomy of Financial Success series. He helps those who are a one-person business achieve financial freedom and success. Elijah, welcome to the show, man. There has to be a story as to how and why you took this path.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Gregory. I know you've been putting in a lot of work throughout the years, and you're like me. Like this online stuff is, it's great. It's a conduit to help people, but you also are pretty heavy in connecting with people in real life too. So I'm glad to see that this brand is really merging those sides of yourself because I think there's a lot of people that you can impact and benefit. It just comes down to getting the message out there, and that's what you're doing now.
Man, I appreciate you saying that. Sometimes it feels like I have no idea what I'm doing, but in the end, I know it's going to be good. So I remember you telling me a piece of your story that really stuck out to me. And it was that you started, like, you have this ability to start things based on a problem you see people having and create a solution for multiple people instead of having to repeat yourself. Um, so would you tell us a little bit about some of the things you've built and what the heart, like what started those?
Okay, sure. Well, overall, I like to think of myself as like a problem solver.
Hmm.
So I see problems that are going on in society, but there are plenty of societal problems, and I can't solve everything. So I
Hmm.
decided, okay, like a good example is, plenty of people have relationship problems,
Hmm.
and I'm not necessarily the person to solve that problem
Hmm.
because I've chosen two lanes to stick to. Those two lanes are basically finances and health and wellness. And the
Hmm.
reason I've been pretty good at solving those problems is because I've chose to focus on those problems. And when you focus on a particular area, you see multiple problems coming up. You start to see problems overlap with each other, or they lead back to a central bigger problem. Then you find a way to solve that problem. And it's kind of like, okay, well, now that this problem has been solved for this person, everyone is having this same type of problem, just in another flavor. So create some type
Hmm.
of content, a product or a service to share with the next person, and they can use it to essentially solve that problem, whether it be finances or health and wellness. The biggest problem in regards to what I see in the world is that I think we have too many employees and
Hmm.
not enough people who are self-employed or one-person business. See, most
Hmm.
people don't actually know this, but the concept of an employee is a fairly new phenomenon when it comes to history. Prior to what's known as the employee, people were what's known as today an independent contractor, a freelancer, or a contractor. They had a trade or they had a skill, and they would use that trade or skill to make money for themselves. I mean, a good historical example is you see people with the last name like Smith,
Hmm.
and we kind of wonder where does that come from. Well, there's a good chance that one of their ancestors was the village blacksmith. Hence, they took the name Smith as a form of marketing and advertising, so people knew to go to that person for that particular need or service. Same goes with baker. If you actually get really deep into
Hmm.
this, you'll see that a lot of people's last names are actually tied to former trades in their family, and then the trade or skill disappeared with this whole creation of the employee mentality, and then we still have these last names to reflect that skill. I mean, imagine we don't have to imagine you may have met someone like this,
Hmm.
someone who has the last name Baker, but they don't know how to bake anything.
Yeah, it's real. Uh, I know a baker right now that runs a video game shop.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a great example. But yeah. So my mission statement with financial anatomy and the side hustler society is to really reintroduce people to the concept of carrying a trader skill and carrying themselves as a freelancer, because
Mm,
it doesn't matter what you want to do with those skills. I'll give you a great example, and I can use myself as an example. So the skill set I bring to the market is video editing. The video editor can go and get a job, but if you learn some freelancing skills, I
mm,
could work for myself and be a one person business, or I could start a bigger business and hire other video editors to be on staff. So that's three different types of models to make money. There's the traditional, well, so called traditional, go get a job and make money with that skill. There's, hey, I have the skill set to go get clients myself and generate money on my own terms. So that's freelancing. And then the last one is, hey, I want something bigger. Let me go and employ other video editors. And since I've been one, I know what things to look at in terms of hiring and what clients are expecting. So I
mm.
have a skill that's very malleable because I learned the freelancing basics. I feel like everyone should have those basics down, because if these words ever happen to you, you're fired, you're laid off, it's just not the end of your world. Okay, well, I have the freelancing skills. I'm going to do that till I find another job, or I'm just going to do that period because I just prefer to have time control over my schedule.
Mm.
I want to give people choices, and it all stems back from getting that freelancer bone developed in your body.
That's so good, man. I know you always have really good advice and really good ideas for me when I'm stuck. And I'm new on this entrepreneurial journey, and that's why I started this. Is nobody told me all of the things that go into building your own business, that when you go from being the employee, right, the pretty new concept, to being an individual contributor, freelancer, or solopreneur, that all of those things that were handled for you, the marketing, the sales, the admin, that allowed you to just do your job as an employee, you now have to wear all those hats. So, like, how do you balance wearing all these different hats as an individual contributor? And what would you give as advice for that person that's a solopreneur that's overwhelmed and doesn't know how to get going?
Hmm. Well, first off, my biggest advice is not to wear all the hats, believe it or not. I think
Mm,
you should know how to do something, and you should
mm,
put your tenure into knowing how to do something. Great example, you may not, let's say you're a YouTuber. I think everyone wants to be a content creator nowadays. You may hate designing thumbnails.
mm,
Fair enough. Well, at least design a few so you know how to do it. So, how do you really know if you hate something if you haven't tried it?
mm,
So, at least try it. And when you start getting overwhelmed, you need to make a list of things in three categories. There are things that you like doing. There's things that I don't like it. I it's just kind of neutral. I don't like it, but also don't like it. Then there's things that you hate.
mm,
Once you start getting income flowing, you need to start outsourcing the things that you hate, because that's going to draw away from your energy. Like, oh, now I got to do this stuff. I freaking hate it, but it has to be done because it affects income. Start outsourcing that stuff. And eventually you could get to the point to where you can outsource the neutral stuff too if you want. But the neutral stuff isn't as big a drain as the stuff that you hate doing because it's
mm,
neutral. And you outsource the neutral stuff when you no longer have time to do it, but eventually you'll get to the point to where you're only doing what you like to do, and you can
mm.
outsource the other stuff. And be sure to keep records of you outsourcing this, because all this is tax deductible. Not financial advice, entertainment purposes only. Consult with your enrolled agent. That's my disclaimer. But that's how you gradually move out of the concept of being overwhelmed. But I will say this: you don't have the right to feel overwhelmed if you're too close to the beginning. You need to be willing to put the work in to know everything, because if you don't and you start to outsource, you're probably going to get robbed, because they'll probably overcharge you for something that you know isn't the right rate, but you don't know because you never did it. So go ahead and
Mm.
put your tenure in doing it first, then outsource the stuff that you don't like. But have a plan, lay out a plan, like I said, and you'll find yourself not only getting away from being overwhelmed, but being able to focus on what you like doing, and you'll just see the money roll in as you just move forward.
You got me leaning in here, man. That's good stuff. That reminds me of the six types of work in Genius, how there's different areas where we shine. And there's the zone of frustration, there's the competency, and then there's the zone of genius. And what you just mentioned remind me of that. And that's really good stuff. So one of the stories I love that you told that I want our listeners to hear is how you started the Veggie Outers. How something so simple as having to use your lunch break turned into something that's helped so many people. I won't steal the glory of this story. I just want you to kind of tell us about where you were, what happened, and where it's at now.
Okay. Let me give everyone the context because they might be wondering what in the world is a Veggie Outer. So the Veggie Outers is a brand that supports people make the transition from whatever diet they're on to a plant-based diet. But even if they don't want to switch their diet, it's all about getting more plant-based foods in your system because most Americans are lacking in plant-based foods. With that like foundation established, we essentially go to restaurants that have vegan options and review them on a scale of 1 to 10 based on the customer service, the price, the atmosphere, and also the cost of the food. But it didn't start out that way. It started out back when I used to work for Amazon because I used to be a process assistant. That's like a tier below an area manager who's responsible for running the shift. But essentially, anything an area manager can do, a PA can do, they just get the higher salary. So make of that what you will. But I've been vegan for almost 13 years. So when I was working at Amazon, I would have my lunch because, contrary to popular belief, Uber Eats and DoorDash and all that stuff didn't exist yet. And there weren't really any places to eat at that time within like a drivable radius around my lunch break. So I would just bring my lunch. I would have these different types of things I bring for lunch, and these are meals that I prepped. And every time I would start eating, both friends, associates, strangers, if they're sitting at my table, they just couldn't help but stare at me and stare at what I'm eating. Like, what is that? It looks so intriguing. Like, and I would tell them what it is. Oh, well, this is a nori wrap. Inside of it is quinoa mixed with seasonings and an avocado in the middle to give it kind of like a mock sushi taste without actually eating raw fish. That's intriguing. So, so you're vegan. You how long you been vegan for? I've been vegan for about 3.5 years. But how do you get your protein? How do you get your iodine? How do you get your zinc? And I would answer these questions, but I started to low key get annoyed because it would turn into a Q&A, and then it would be time for us to go back, and I've only eaten like half my lunch. So I started telling them, you know what, how about this? Why don't we actually go to a vegan restaurant? Y'all can ask me these questions, and y'all can actually get to experience some of the food yourselves. That way, maybe I can actually get some food eaten. Because when we get back on the floor and then an hour passes and my stomach is rumbling because you're grilling me on questions, I'm gonna give you a stare across the warehouse and you're not gonna like it. So how about we just go and try that out? And a lot of people were actually down to do that. So we went to a place in Addison called Genghis Grill. They basically allow you to make your own plate. For those of y'all that are familiar with Genghis Grill, full of like vegetables, spices, fruits, and they do serve meat, but they have vegan options. They have tofu. So we tried the tofu, and everyone really loved it. And it wasn't like just two or three or four people. Our first Veggie Outers meetup, and it wasn't even called the Veggie Outers at that time. It was just that this is what we're gonna do. It was like 12 people that showed up. That told me, okay, there's a big interest in this. So if we're gonna ask people, would y'all be down to do this like on a monthly basis? And they were down. So then we came up with the name, and what we know as the Veggie Outers was kind of formed from there.
That's so incredible. Every time I hear that story, I just laugh. Like he's creating a solution because people kept using up his lunch break to ask him questions. And it's like, well, if y'all want to experience it yourselves, let's just go do this. So I don't have to want to strangle you halfway through my shift.
You think that's funny? Another way of looking at it is You could ask, so where does the Veggie Outers come from? You could jokingly say, oh, they came out of Amazon.
Oh, that's funny. The Veggie Outer Amazon.
Because technically, it all did start in the Amazon warehouse.
That's so funny. Yeah, that was the other thing. It's like I can't imagine you working at Amazon because you've been an entrepreneur how long now?
Since 2017.
Wow. I was thinking way longer. You're just so natural with it, the way you just come up with solutions for problems. So, who empowered you when you couldn't see or believe in yourself?
Hmm. This is actually probably a good tie-in into financial anatomy. So I've
Mm,
had several mentors throughout the years, whether they're mentors from afar. And what I mean by that is like you may have met someone, well, not met someone, but you've read several of their books, you've listened to their audiobooks, so they've kind of become a mentor from afar. But I've
mm-hmm,
also had a mentor like in person.
mm,
And interestingly enough, I don't want to say he was the opposite of me, but we definitely didn't have the same type of personality. So
mm,
he was a good motivator to pick me up when I was down, but he was also kind of a pit bull to point out like things that I was lacking in
mm,
and pushing me to reach the next level. But interestingly enough, what he didn't do, and it's not his fault, he probably didn't know how. He wasn't actually good at recognizing my natural talents and bringing those out to the forefront. So I didn't
mm,
used to be like the best at sales and in person and stuff like that. And he would always tell me like I lack an edge, I lack like confidence, which me being a competitive person, I'm not gonna take that too well. So I went out and actually got the confidence. And each
mm,
time he would say that there was something wrong and it's because I'm too introverted or because my personality type, I would intentionally prove them wrong. And that helped develop me into the person I am today. But on the same token, the stuff that I'm doing today now, like making money online, like content creation, even the video editing, these are things that are part of my normal like personality.
mm.
And if I actually would have got on that path sooner, I probably would be better off. But then again, I wouldn't have developed the skill sets to be more multi-layered, to be able to walk
Mm.
up to anyone and drum up a conversation at will. So I'm grateful for him for that. But at the same token, that's kind of what motivated me to start Financial Anatomy, because the whole concept of financial anatomy and why I wrote the book, The Anatomy of Financial Success,
Mm.
is to recognize the traits of your normal personality, see what your strengths and weaknesses are, capitalize on your strengths while limit exposure to your weaknesses,
Mm.
while being aware of them and work on them at your own pace so that you can achieve financial success.
Man, that is so good. And that reminds me of a quote in my book, From Waiter to Greater, How Anyone Can Level Up from Where They Are. It's if anything scares you, face it head on so that nothing stands in your way. You seem like the same kind of competitive person as me, where if someone tells you you can't, you're going to do it twice and get a t-shirt to show them you did it, right? And that's exactly what you exhibited is, you can't tell me I'm not confident because that's not true. I just haven't developed that skill yet. And you've sent me like you sent me that test to take the financial anatomy quiz. And I don't know what it is lately. I just have not wanted to read because it puts me to sleep and I just don't want to rest. But I feel like something keeps telling me to rest, even though it doesn't make sense. That's another topic for another day. But now, because of the way you broke it down here, I can't wait to get off and go read that email that you sent from the results from my quiz. Because if you don't know why you do what you do financially and how that ties to your personality or the way you are, who you are, you could potentially be ruining yourself just from not being aware, just from lack of awareness. So this is incredible. Where can they get this book? How can they find out what their financial anatomy is?
So you can go to www.thesidehustlersociety.com and you can go, there's a store section, click on store, and you can experience it in two ways. You can get the financial personality report. I've actually done a lot to actually make it free to the public. because I want this information out there so that people can really start to change things, because things are not improving in the financial world. I think debts have started to hit new ceilings. Unemployment rate is going rampant because AI is taking jobs. It's getting pretty bad out there. So it's
Yeah.
important to know the tools you have to work with and your drawbacks, so you can work them out, so you can give yourself the best possible chance for success. But
Mhm.
another way to experience it is I have something called the financial personality bundle, where not only do you get the financial personality report, but you also get my best-selling book, The Anatomy of Financial Success, and the audio version of The Anatomy of Financial Success too. So whether
Wow.
you choose to listen to it in the car while you're on your way to work or social gather, etc., or you want to sit down and read it, or both. Some people want to sit down and read it and listen to the audiobook and go through the book like that.
Mm.
You'll have the option to do that. So I highly recommend people check out that bundle, because the Anatomy of Financial Success is designed to get you results, because we all have financial habits based on our emotions. We have weaknesses when it comes to budgeting. We also have strengths in the areas of finance, the investing, savings, the expenses, spending money on yourself, donations. Based on your personality type, two of those are going to be your natural strengths that you're spending money on just by default, but two
Mhm.
of them are going to be not including donations, because that's kind of icing on the top. But two of them are going to be things that you're emotionally conditioned to avoid because you're scared of them, or you don't like spending money there. It's all based on your financial personality type. And there are six financial personalities. Once you find out which one you are, you can use the anatomy of financial success to dissect, okay, here's where my problems are, here's how I solve them. And the same thing goes with different ways of making money. There are different skill sets that you need to develop based on your personality and talents that you need to cultivate. So I know that might be kind of long winded, but just to kind of summarize, a financial personality report that's free on the website. But I highly recommend you get the financial personality bundle, because it will allow you to capitalize on a lot of the things the report is going to bring up in an active way.
I am so curious now what those financial personalities are. Like I just there's a big question mark next to what are these financial. Are you able to give us an example? Like what is your financial personality?
My financial personality is what's known as the builder.
Mm.
And the builder's strengths when it comes to budgeting is investment, and savings. So those are
Mm.
two things I've always been emotionally conditioned to invest in, not invest in, to spend money in.
Yeah.
But the weaknesses the builder has is spending money on on expenses and spending money on themselves. Because if you don't pay your expenses, obviously, do I really need to share why that's a problem? You can have the best house in the world, but if you're not paying your property taxes, it's not going to be yours for a while, for long rather. And
Mm.
if you're not spending money on yourself, this is when you tend to start getting depressed, because you're
Mm.
not seeing the fruits of your labor. You
Yeah.
might be wondering exactly why. I'm investing all this money in the stock market and real estate, and I'm actually seeing the returns, and then I reinvest or I save it, but I'm feeling like down. Why? It's because you're not spending some money on yourself. And this is a little nugget from the book, but you want to make sure that when you're spending your money and you're budgeting, those areas we talked about, don't ever let it drop below 5% of your income. So at the very least, 5% of your money needs to be going to investments, needs to be going to
Mm.
savings, needs to be going to expenses, and needs to be going to yourself. Even if things start getting rough. And if that's not possible, you need to do what you need to do to raise your income,
Yeah.
because you're going to start
Man,
to see the drawbacks of not spending money in those categories that you're mostly weak in the first place.
that is such good advice. I know when things seem tough, we tend to like take savings or things that are good for our finance off the table completely, like from 20% or 30% or 50% down to zero, because it's about shrinking, not growing. And the reason I'm over here giggling is because I found the email and I opened up. I don't think I read past the intro to see that my personality type is the fame seeker, and I'm not surprised. It's just wild. So 5%, at least 5%, but I love that. Like if you can't even manage 5% to put towards your financial health and wellness, you have to do something to increase your income. That is a word right there. Wow. So I'm looking at like best income source, best way of dealing with their emotions, best way of goal setting, best way of paying bills. Like that's all in this report. I don't know why you know what? I think, Elijah, I'm going to be real. I think I was afraid to look at it because I was afraid that you would be right. Oh man, this is good. I'm just overlooking. I can't wait to dive into this. I'm not going to dive into this on the show, but I love this. Free flow goals is my best way of goal setting, and that couldn't be more accurate. Like if something is too routine for me, I'll fight it. Right? I'm such a rebel. I can't even set a goal or a task or schedule for myself. I will rebel against myself. It doesn't make sense. But enough of me. So how how were you able? I'm just curious because that is so cool. Like you've got a whole assessment, you're helping people with their financial personality so that they can be better with their finances based on who they are, not some made up thing. Like as I'm just kind of glancing over to my right here, I see it is me. Like I can't even deny it. And I see the hope just at a glance. So I'm sure when I dive in, I'm going to know exactly what to do to get my finances in order and not to end up back in this place that I'm in right now. So can you talk to us about like what was the first small action in this journey that created the momentum?
First small action. Ooh, I gotta think on that. Well, while I'm thinking on that, let me circle back to what you asked before
Okay.
in terms of like mentors. There
Mm.
is a person that he wasn't a mentor, but he was very inspirational in the creation of Financial Anatomy, and his name is Blair Singer. He's actually a rich dad advisor, and
Mm.
it might be in the car. Hold on.
Mm.
No, it is not. Right here.
Right there.
He wrote a book, and I have the CD version
Oh,
back when those were a thing,
whoa.
called Sales Dogs. You don't have to be an attack dog to be successful in sales.
Mm. That
And
is so
Blair,
good.
in Blair Singer's book, there are 5 different types of personalities that you'll fit in sales. You're going to either be a basset hound, a chihuahua, a golden retriever, a poodle, or a pit bull. And he has different strategies and tactics based on which personality type you are. And I
Mm.
actually had the pleasure of a meeting of talking to Blair Singer after I actually wrote my book, The Anatomy of Financial Success. That interview where you interviewed me is actually on Financial Anatomy if y'all want to check it out. But I thought that this book was so cool because it accurately described the emotional hurdles you're going to have to jump through if you're going to be in sales. But
Mm.
there's one problem with it. It was limited just to sales. There's
Mm.
several aspects of personal finance. What about budgeting? What about the different ways of like making money? I mean, what about the different types of income? So
Yeah.
I'm thinking if I could make the same thing, or well, not the same thing, but something similar, but for personal finance overall, I think it would really benefit the marketplace. And that's what really sets me apart from, I'll say, the other financial gurus like Robert Kiyosaki or
Mm.
Dave Ramsey. I have a means of drilling down to the core of what the issue actually is.
Mm. Yeah. And if you can't drill down to the core, at that point, it's like trying to mop up water when the sink is still on.
Right. But
Mm.
in terms of first steps, I say the first step for me, ironically, is probably becoming an Uber driver. I know that's so routine, but I
Wow.
say that because when I quit Amazon, I was in network marketing at the time,
Mm.
and I was kind of getting to the point to where I wanted to own something myself, not be
Mm.
promoting other people's stuff. So what can I do in the meantime? But this Uber thing is popping off right now, and I do have a new car. Well, my friend Crystal turned me on to it like about a year before then, but
Mm.
I only did like 4 trips. Let me actually do this full time while I figure out my next move, and then that transition into doing the Uber Eats too. So I
Mm.
would say that's my first step because it allowed me to stay off the job market long enough to actually build this.
Wow. And how are you balancing your time between Uber and building? That's just, I'm sorry. I'm like a little child that doesn't know anything. I could pretend I know stuff, but I know there's someone out there asking these same questions. Like, how do you make time for this and this? I don't have any energy after this, right? So I'm thinking from that perspective.
Uh, they're actually interconnected because
Mm.
the side hustler society wasn't always the side hustler society. It used to be called the Uber lifestyle on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
I make content about how to succeed with Uber, how to we can make more money. But
Mm.
the videos weren't getting that many views because rideshare content was saturated.
Mm.
Saturated. And I bumped into this guy on YouTube called The Simple Driver. And he broke down how to make the most money with Uber, how to make money off referrals, and like he had a whole business system around the stuff.
Mm.
And I said, well, I could do the same thing, but I don't
Mm.
think I'm gonna get the same results because it's so saturated. But you know what's not saturated? Uber Eats content. People were talking
Mm.
about the other delivery apps like DoorDash or like Grubhub and stuff, but no one was really talking about Uber Eats and really isolating or focusing just on that. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna do what the Simple Driver did, but I'm gonna do it around Uber Eats content,
Wow.
and that's exactly what happened. It pretty much took off because there was a void in the market, and since I focused on Uber Eats, I was able to figure out the inner workings of the algorithm, how you can position your car to be in the right place to get the best types of trips, different ways that you can increase your tips, just subtly. And people were signing up using my code. And back in the day, Uber is paying like a lot of money for referrals
Wow.
because they would take the advertising money they could use for commercials and just give it to you, the driver, to refer someone because
Wow.
you're going to be the best teacher since you went out there and did it.
So they used the network marketing model where they took their marketing budget and put it back into their employees.
Well, they're independent contractors.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
but it was a little different. A person had to complete a certain number of trips. So it ranged from like 15 trips, like 50 or 100 trips, depending on what market they signed up in. So they still had to
Mm.
do something. But since I had all this training for it on the YouTube channel,
Yeah.
naturally they're going to do it because they know how.
Mm. You know, I was today years old when I learned that employee was a relatively new thing. I knew that, the 9 to 5, that kind of worker was relatively new. I just didn't know that employees were new. Like, there's so much I can learn from you, and I want to have you back on this show. I'm trying to keep these shows to 30 minutes so people can enjoy a digestible snack and get back on their day. But I also have the opportunity to come, have you come back on the podcast and dive into more, because there's so many more layers to you. There's so much you've done, so much you are doing, and so much you have left to do. We got a lot more work to do, Elijah. Where can they find you?
So you're going to find me. Well, there's a website, there's a decidehustlersociety.com. I'm
Mhm.
also pretty active on the IG. It's my name, Elijah Bilel. Nothing special, just those 2 words, and I'll pop up. You can also find me on Facebook under Elijah Ray Blau. But if you type in Elijah Blau, that's enough for me to pop up too. So if you got any questions, feel free to DM me, and I'm here to help because we definitely need it in today's times. I think the
Mhm.
ability to get money out of the mud and to budget on a deficit is
Mhm.
a very needed skill set given the whole, I'll say, political environment, because I don't see it getting any better in terms of the effect it has on the economy. So
Yeah.
these skill sets, you're going to need to develop them. Get ahead of the curve and develop them now so you'll be all right when the problem comes. If you try and do it when the problem is here, it's just going to be harder.
Amen. It's a true story, man. And for those of you that are not watching and you're listening, I'm going to spell Blair for you because I didn't even know that's how you pronounced it. I was being all fancy with it. Elijah Bilel. Bilel. It's Bilel. Elijahbilel. Thank you so much for coming on today, man. Stick around for just a second. I want to talk to you off the show. But until the next episode, I want you to stay curious and remember that your greater journey is just that, a journey. The destination is going to be boring. So enjoy the journey while you're on it. I need a better outro. You know what? Maybe we'll just do this this music. This music always does it justice. See y'all in the next episode.